So, the civil war in Syria. It's been one of the most devastating conflicts of our time. But how did it even start? And why has it been so incredibly hard to stop? Well, let's break it down together. To really get a handle on this, we have to start with this question. Syria isn't just any country. It's an ancient land home to cities like Damascus, which have been lived in for literally thousands of years. Because of its location right on the Mediterranean, Syria was this amazing crossroads for trade and different cultures for centuries. After a long history, including being part of bigger empires, it finally became a fully independent country in 1946, and that really set the stage for its modern story. So what happened? What could possibly push a country with such a deep and rich history into such a devastating war? Well, it all goes back to the spring of 2011. What's pretty remarkable is just how quickly things spiraled out of control. It all started in early 2011 with some peaceful protests in a city called Dira. People were just asking for basic things, like more jobs and more freedom. But the government responded with force, and that just threw fuel on the fire, causing the protests to spread like wildfire to major cities. By the end of that same year, what started as a peaceful movement had turned into a full-blown armed conflict. Now, here's where it gets really complicated. This wasn't just a straightforward fight between two sides. It quickly fractured into a complex war with a whole bunch of different groups involved. So who's actually fighting? Well, it's definitely not a simple two-sided war. First, you have the Syrian army, which supports the government. Then you've got all these different rebel groups who want political change. You also have Kurdish forces. They're an ethnic group in the north, and they're fighting to protect their own region. And on top of all that, you have other groups with very different religious or political goals. With everyone wanting something different, you can see why finding peace is so difficult. And that complexity is really the key to understanding this. You have all these groups controlling different pieces of the country, and each one has its own agenda. So a simple solution, it was just never on the table. This is a huge reason why the war has dragged on for so many years. And, of course, a conflict this big didn't stay inside Syria's borders for long. It wasn't long before other countries all around the world started getting involved. This is how a civil war became a global issue. Some powerful countries decided to back the Syrian government, sending money, weapons, and even air support. But other world powers did the exact same thing for various rebel groups. So the conflict basically turned into a proxy war. That's when international powers fight each other indirectly on someone else's soil. But beyond all the politics and the different fighting groups, we have to talk about the true cost of this war. And that's the devastating impact it's had on millions of regular, everyday people. The number is just staggering. Millions of people have been forced to leave their homes just to find somewhere safe. It's created one of the largest humanitarian crises of our time. Many of the people who had to flee became refugees. So what is a refugee? It's someone who is forced to leave their entire country to escape things like war or persecution. Just try to imagine having to leave everything you've ever known behind, often with just the clothes on your back, to start over somewhere new. And for the people who stayed in Syria, well, daily life became a constant struggle to just survive. Picture this, your neighborhood is destroyed. Schools and hospitals are either damaged or just shut down. And there are constant shortages of the basics, like clean water, electricity, and food. On top of that, so many parents lost their jobs, and an entire generation of kids had their education just stop. And this lack of education, it's a massive problem for the country's future. Experts call these children a lost generation. Think about it. They've missed years of school and have grown up knowing nothing but war. And someday, they're going to be the ones who have to rebuild their entire country. The war also destroyed irreplaceable parts of human history. The ancient city of Palmyra, it was a priceless World Heritage Site, and temples and arches that had stood for thousands of years were just blown up. This wasn't just a loss for Syria, it was a loss for the entire world. So after so much destruction, is there a path forward? What does rebuilding a country even look like? Well, rebuilding Syria is about so much more than just putting up new buildings. The challenges are enormous. First, you have to get all the groups to agree to a peace deal that will actually last. Then you have to make the country safe again by clearing millions of unexploded bombs. Only then can you start rebuilding homes and schools. And after all that, there's the challenge of helping millions of refugees come home and somehow healing the deep wounds the war has left on society. And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. It goes way beyond politics or buildings. It gets right to the human challenge of moving on after so much pain and conflict. How does an entire nation and all of its people even begin to learn how to heal?